Hello, I'm Sarah Gardner, Field Program Librarian at the Harris County Library's Aldine branch. We're excited to be hosting the Harris County Elections Office today as they explain the propositions on the ballot in the upcoming election on November 2nd. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Sarah. All right. So my name is Nadia Hakeem. I am the Deputy Director of Communication and Voter Outreach over at Harris County Elections. My HCPL that I usually go to is South Houston, so big shout out to that branch. Huge fan. And today I'll be presenting on, well, actually kind of moderating today's discussion on the different propositions that will be on the ballot. So all Harris County voters are eligible to vote on these 8 constitutional amendments, these 8 propositions. So your ballot may look a little different and have additional things on there depending on where you live. So there are also things about school boards and other things. Again, it all depends on where you live. I do have Tish here and Patty. They are on my team, and they're going to help us work our way through these propositions. So Tish will be breaking down things for us in English. Patty will be breaking things down for us in Spanish. We do have slides that are in Vietnamese and Chinese, and you'll be able to access these slides later on if you do want to refer back to them. So yes, if you have any questions that come up during this presentation, please do not hesitate to submit your questions. We will happily answer them to the best of our ability. And if we are unable to answer them, we will find you an answer. All right, so let's get into it. All right. So what's on the ballot? Well, let's start off with the basic question. What is an elections administrator? So in November 2020, the Office of Elections Administration was created. And this office brings together the election duties that were formerly split between the county clerk and tax assessor collector. So you had all these election processes happening, registering voters and all that sort of thing happening in 2 different areas. And they decided to streamline everything and bring it into one office to alleviate any confusion, make things easier for voters, so on and so forth. So this new system, it erases the legacy of a historically inequitable and discriminatory system, and it transitions us to one focused solely on improving the security, transparency, and efficiency of county elections and voter registration. So our elections administrator is Isabel Longoria, and she works with the Commissioner's Court and the major political parties and other stakeholders to establish an elections infrastructure that facilitates access to the voting processes to the citizenry of the 3rd largest county in the United States. Harris County is over 1,700 square miles. I don't think people understand how huge that is. It's larger than the state of Rhode Island. So we have a lot of people to reach, and we are definitely trying our darndest. So let's get into into what's on the ballot. All right, so Proposition 1. Tish, break it down for us, please.
Okay, perfect. My name's Tish Ochoa. I'm so happy to be with you all today. Propositions can be really confusing when you read them in the voting booth, so we just wanted to demystify this language for everyone. So Prop 1, basically, it reads, authorizing professional sports team, charitable foundations of organizations, sanctioned by the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association or the Women's Professional Rodeo Association to conduct charitable raffles at rodeo venues. So what does that mean? Just to make it simple, put it in plain language, currently other professional sports organizations like football or baseball can host raffles to raise money. In the state of Texas, a raffle is considered a form of gambling. So this amendment would allow rodeo associations to also host raffles as fundraisers.
All right, very cool. All right, let's get that in Spanish.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Patricia o Patti. La siguiente explicación es para propuesta número 1. So, ahorita lo que va a ver usted en la boleta viene siendo autorizar a las fundaciones benéficas de equipos deportivos profesionales de organizaciones sancionadas por la Asociación Profesional de Vaqueros de Rodeo o la Asociación Profesional de Rodeo Femenino a realizar rifas benéficas en eventos de rodeo. Esto significa que actualmente otras organizaciones deportivas profesionales como el fútbol y el béisbol pueden organizar rifas para recaudar fondos. Esto se considera una forma de apuesta en Texas y requiere la aprobación de la legislatura. Esta enmienda permitiría a las asociaciones de rodeo profesional organizar rifas para recaudar fondos en sus eventos.
Perfect. Thank you. So, again, this is in Vietnamese. We also have it broken down into Chinese. So, I mean, this is a lot of information. Tish, Patty, can we bring notes into the polls with us? Like, can I bring my phone and like refer to things, or what's the best way to go about this?
So when you're going to the polling place, you are welcome to bring any notes that you've written. You are also welcome to print out a sample ballot. And if you look in the chat, you can go to harrisvotes.com/sample ballots. You can actually put in your zip code and print out your sample ballot, fill it all out, and bring it with you to the polls as a resource. But one thing that you cannot bring is your phone. Because there is no recording allowed at the polls. And so just to make sure that our election is super secure and safe, please keep your phone away and bring your notes.
So, lo que mi colega me acaba de decir es que puedes llevar notas y una boleta de muestra para mirar mientras votas, pero debe que ser en papel. Pero no puedes mirar notas en tu celular, no es permitido. Puedes llevar todo el papel que quieras, menos tu celular o algún electrónico.
Okay, cool. So it's like an open book test at this point, it seems like, right? All right, very cool. So Proposition 2, yeah, I like to think I'm a pretty smart person, but whenever I get to these propositions, I get all sorts of tongue-tied. So break it down for us, Tish.
So on the ballot, authorizing a county to finance the development or redevelopment of transportation or infrastructure in unproductive, underdeveloped, or blighted areas of the county. So basically, to break this down, right now, cities and towns have this right to do redevelopment of transportation or infrastructure. This amendment is saying if you vote for this amendment, you will allow and give Harris County the authority to issue bonds to finance projects like roads, railways, bridges. And one thing also this amendment does is that it doesn't allow the county to use more than 65% of property tax increases to repay the bonds. So basically, this just would give the county a little bit more say in infrastructure.
Okay, because previously it was only cities and towns. And now we're
Correct.
bringing it a little bit closer to home. Okay.
That's right.
All right, thanks, Tish.
So, propuesta número 2, autorizar a un condado a financiar el desarrollo o la reurbanización del transporte o la infraestructura en áreas improductivas, subdesarrolladas o arruinadas en el condado. En otras palabras, esta enmienda permite a los condados emitir bonos para financiar proyectos específicos de transporte y desarrollo. Recuperación de infraestructuras en zonas desatendidas del condado de Harris, como carreteras, ferrocarriles, puentes, etc. Anteriormente, solo las ciudades y pueblos podían emitir estos bonos. Esta enmienda tampoco permite a los condados utilizar más del 65% de los aumentos de los ingresos del impuesto sobre la propiedad anualmente para devolver los bonos y evita que los condados utilicen los fondos de estos bonos para construir una carretera de cuota.
Okay. All right, very cool. So again, Vietnamese, Chinese for those of you who want to go back and need these translations. Proposition 3. Ooh, this is a good one.
Okay, so Proposition 3 reads, prohibit this state or a political subdivision of this state from prohibiting or limiting religious services of religious organizations. So to explain this more simply, this amendment will limit state government from putting any restrictions on religious services or meetings in any way.
Okay, thanks for that, Tish. I was confused by the double negatives, but also the limiting thrown in there. All right, so Patty.
So, propuesta número 3. Prohíbe que este estado o una subdivisión política de este estado prohíba o limite los servicios religiosos de las organizaciones religiosas. Esto se refiere a esta enmienda limitará la posibilidad de que el gobierno estatal restrinja de algún modo los servicios y las reuniones religiosas.
Perfect. All right. So, all right, I guess I should have asked this before we jumped into all of this. How do I know that I'm registered to vote for this November election? Is there any way I can check this? Oh, you're muted, Tish.
Let me unmute myself. There we go. If you go to harrisvotes.com/voter registration, and if you look in the comments on this, you can see the links there. It will take you to like a portal, and you're able to put your information in and verify that you're registered and up to date with voting.
Okay, so like your address and the correct name and everything.
Correct.
In case you have a name change.
Yeah, you want to make sure that everything's correct and up to date, and that way we'll have all of your information.
Perfect.
Para verificar si usted está registrado o si se quiere registrar, recuerden que pueden ir a harrisvotes.com y allí pueden checar, revisar sus datos que sí están actual y si por si acaso no se han registrado, también lo pueden hacer por línea.
Perfect. All right, Tish. Take us to Proposition 4.
Okay, so on the ballot, changing the eligibility requirements for a justice of the Supreme Court, a judge of the Court of Criminal Appeals, a justice of a Court of Appeals, and a district judge. When I first read this one, I was confused. I did not know what this meant. We all went over it, right? But actually, when you look deeper into the proposition, basically this changes the current requirements for judges and people on the judicial side of things. So at the moment, the requirement for a justice of the Supreme Court, a judge of the Court of Criminal Appeals, and a justice of the Court of Appeals is 10 years of experience as a lawyer or judge. This further says that they need 10 years of experience as a lawyer and judge in Texas, right? So it makes residency in Texas part of the requirements. And it also changes the eligibility of a judge for a district court from 4 years of experience. It would change it to 8 years of experience. So basically, this makes the requirements for judges a little bit more I want to say restrictive. That's not the right word. A little more
specific. Yeah.
Specific.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, propuesta número 4 está un poquito larga, pero como quiera les aviso adelante. So, propuesta número 4 cambia los requisitos de elegibilidad para un juez del Corte Suprema, un juez de Tribunal de Apelaciones Penales, un juez de Tribunal de Apelaciones y un juez del Distrito. Esto indica que esta enmienda permite a la Comisión Estatal de Conducta Judicial recibir denuncias. Esta enmienda cambiará el requisito actual. Actualmente, el requisito para un juez de la Corte Suprema, un juez de la Corte de Apelaciones Criminales y un juez de una Corte de Apelaciones es de 10 años de experiencia como abogado o juez. Esto cambiará a 10 años como licenciado en Texas, como abogado o un juez en un tribunal estatal o de condado. Actualmente, la elegibilidad para un juez de un tribunal del distrito es de 4 años de experiencia como abogado o juez en ejercicio. Esto cambiará a 8 años de experiencia requerida. La enmienda también especifica que, además de ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, los candidatos deben ser residentes de Texas. La enmienda entraría en efecto en enero de 2022 para los candidatos elegidos por primera vez para un mandato que comience a partir del 1 de enero de 2025.
Excellent. Okay, halfway there. Proposition 5.
Okay, so to talk about Proposition 5, the ballot reads, providing additional powers to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct with respect to candidates for judicial office. So basically, what this does is it allows the State Commission to take complaints about the conduct not only of current judges, but also of candidates for judicial office. It also authorizes the State Commission to discipline candidates in the way that they are currently allowed to also discipline judges. So this just makes things a little bit more, basically, the candidate has the same standards as the judge.
Okay. Proposición número 5 otorga poderes adicionales a la Comisión Estatal de Conducta Judicial con respecto a los candidatos a cargos judiciales. Esta enmienda permite a la Comisión Estatal de Conducta Judicial recibir quejas sobre la conducta de los candidatos que aspiran a ser jueces o magistrados. También autoriza a la Comisión Estatal a disciplinar a los candidatos de la misma manera que ahora se le permite disciplinar a los titulares de cargos judiciales y oficiales.
Wow. So just an observation. Sorry, we have a question coming in. All right. How does that impact a presiding judge on election day? His authority on election day moves his authority to a state district judge by state law.
That's a great question, and it's something I think that I will need to research to get back to you.
Yeah, maybe we can ask Isabel directly or Beth Stevens, who is our legal expert.
Perfect. If you could drop like a contact email in the chat, we will reach out to you directly to answer that question. But from my understanding, this current, like for this particular election, it won't have any effect because this particular this law wouldn't go into effect until after. So I can tell you for November, we're good. And we will get if there are any changes for presiding judge and share that with the community.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for that, Tish. Yeah, these are some pretty big changes in certain instances, and I can't help but think, people go out to vote in these big kind of like sexy elections, for like Senate and House of Representatives and presidential elections. And a lot of the times these smaller elections are a little neglected, right? So we get like a turnout rate of 10 to 15% of voters for these smaller elections. And let's say half of them vote in favor of one of these things. That's 7% of people determining rules for 100% of us that affect 100% of us. So yeah, it just shows you how important every single election is, right? Because these are not little changes that are going to be made.
Yeah, I think we can underestimate sometimes how these quote unquote smaller elections affect our daily lives, but these elections really do affect our daily lives and the daily lives of our children, particularly with the school board elections.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Christina Cortez is asking if this presentation will be available offline. We will share this with Harris County Public Libraries so that y'all will be able to access it. I'm sorry, I cut you off, Patty. I didn't know if you wanted to get into any of the weeds.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so Proposition 6.
Okay, so on the ballot, establishing a right for residents of certain facilities to designate an essential caregiver for in-person visitation. So to break that down to plain language, this allows residents of nursing homes and other long-term care facilities to designate anyone that they choose as an essential caregiver. And by designating them as an essential caregiver, it gives them the right to have in-person visits always.
Su propuesta número 6 establece el derecho de los residentes de ciertos establecimientos a designar un cuidador esencial para las visitas en persona. Se refiere que esta enmienda permite a los residentes de residencias de ancianos designar a cualquier persona que elijan como cuidador esencial. Esto da al cuidador esencial el derecho a las visitas en persona.
Very cool. All right. So into the final two. Oh, I'm sorry, Tish, you're muted.
Oh, there we go.
Hey.
Fancy. Here we go. I took it over from you. So Proposition 7, going into the home stretch, says, on the ballot it says, allow the surviving spouse of a person who is disabled to receive a limitation on the school district ad valorem taxes on the spouse's residence homestead if the spouse is 55 years of age or older at the time of the person's death. So this proposition, it affects somebody who is at least 55 years old and their spouse is disabled and passes away. So if that happens to be their circumstance, this proposition 4 would allow them, the widow or the widower, to receive decreased property tax on their home.
Su propuesta número 7, para permitir que el cónyuge sobreviviente de una persona discapacitada reciba una limitación en los impuestos ad valorem del distrito escolar sobre la residencia del cónyuge si éste tiene 55 años de edad o más al momento del fallecimiento de la persona. Esto indica que esta enmienda afecta a las personas del al menos 55 años cuyo cónyuge discapacitado fallece. Esto les permite a la viuda o el viudo recibir una reducción de impuestos sobre la propiedad de su casa.
Okay, and last but not least, Proposition 8.
So on the ballot, it authorizing a legislature to provide exemption from ad valorem taxation of the residence homestead of a surviving spouse of a member of the armed services of the United States who is killed or fatally injured in the line of duty. Really, this is a language change to what currently exists. So if you vote for, it would also include fatally injured alongside killed. This will allow more people, spouses who lose their partners in the line of duty, to receive a tax exemption. So an example of this might be, if an officer was injured and later died at the hospital, this would allow their widow or widower to receive these benefits.
Okay. Propuesta número 8. Autoriza a la legislatura a establecer una exención de impuestos ad valorem de la totalidad o parte del valor del mercado de la residencia del cónyuge sobreviviente de un miembro de las Fuerzas Armadas de los Estados Unidos que haya fallecido o haya recibido una lesión fatal en cumplimiento del deber. Esta enmienda a cambio del lenguaje para incluir herido de muerte junto a muerto. Esto permitirá que más cónyuges que pierden a sus parejas en el cumplimiento del deber reciban una excepción de impuestos sobre su vivienda.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tish and Patty. If you need more resources for proposition explanations, we're including the Texas Secretary of State's website, along with the League of Women Voters of Texas. The League of Women Voters, they're a fantastic resource. They actually break it down to even more direct language as far as, all right, this is what you get when you vote for, this is what you get when you vote against. And also we're including a link to Ballotpedia as well. These are all nonpartisan websites. So you're gonna get the straight facts. Also, so tips for going to vote: vote early. Um, Early voting starts October 18th and it goes all the way to the 29th. Yeah, avoid the lines, and you can go whenever, wherever. Well, not wherever, but definitely check online and see the three locations that are closest to you, and you can actually see the wait times live. They are constantly updating those things. So if you see that the school down the street is actually, a little bit longer of a wait time, maybe it's worth it going the couple of extra blocks so that you don't have to wait. Like we said, you can bring notes and a sample ballot to look at while you vote. Again, you cannot look at notes on your phone. You can bring all the paper you want. You can have it printed. They can be handwritten. Go to the library and do your research, and you can print for 10 cents a page, black and white, or copy all your notes by hand from the computer screen. You don't have to be a library card holder in order to access the computers at the library. So it's a great resource. I cannot sing their praises enough. So something that comes up a lot is, what if someone has a hard time reading the screen? Tish, you know a little bit about the new machines. What's going on with those?
I do. So the county has new voting machines. We used them in a smaller election in May, but this will really be the first time that the greater public gets to see them. And one of the great features on them is there is like an increased font size setting, which I know that I need these days. So it's really helpful. Another thing is, if you have a disability or you need help or you're legally blind, you can bring a person to the polls with you as a helper. So just remember that. You can always bring somebody, or we can turn up that font as high as it'll go for you.
But if you do bring somebody, I think it's important to note, or if you ask a poll worker to help you, they will have to take an oath before assisting you, saying that they are only reading what's directly on the screen, right?
That's right. For our elections, we want to make sure they're as secure and transparent as possible. So basically, we're just doing everything we can to make sure that nobody's vote is affected by anything anyone says. So when you're an assistant for somebody at the polls, you are literally just reading to them what is on the ballot, and we don't want, not affecting their answer, their decision in any way.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I wanted to mention, Nadia, is you talked about early voting. And on the 28th, we have late night voting. So all polling locations will be open until 10. And we have 5 locations that will be open 24 hours. Also, during early voting, we will have 16 drive-through voting locations. And you can go to harrisvotes.com/locations to see all of our locations. We will also have our early voting posters with all the locations and some sample ballots delivered to all the city and county libraries soon.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And something else that's important to note, because there are poll watchers at the polls, and these are people who are nominated by parties or but I'm sorry, I'm completely spacing out. Tish, or Patty, do you happen to remember the exact requirements of who sends poll watchers?
Poll watchers can come in. They're poll watchers. Basically, anybody who wants to be a poll watcher can become one, and they can come in and basically have the authority to walk around and see what's happening. They can't watch what anyone's exact vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the role of the poll watcher is just to be on site at the polling place to make sure that everything is going well and kosher and everything is fair and free.
Right. But they do have to be appointed by certain officials from what I recall. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Tish. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, anyone can become a poll watcher as long as they are kind of like appointed, like Nadia mentioned. So if
Okay.
you want to become a poll watcher, you can, but you just have to make sure someone appoints you as well.
All right, so an official has to appoint you. Okay. So yeah, if at any moment you feel intimidated by a poll watcher, maybe there's someone within the 100, is it 100 feet or 100 yards?
100 feet.
All right,
100 feet.
okay, if there's anyone within that 100 feet boundary around the polling location who's making you feel intimidated, insecure, notify the election judge or clerk as quickly as possible, as well as call our number. Our number is 713-755-6965. Again,
And
that's oh, no.
sorry, I was going to say, just to clarify, a poll watcher can be appointed by a candidate. They can also be appointed by a political party or the proponents or opponents of a specific measure, like a political action committee. So
I see.
there are many ways in which you can become a poll watcher. It can be an issue thing. It could be a party thing. It could just be, you're interested in this process. But those are the 3 different ways that you can become appointed as a poll watcher.
Very cool. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Tish. All right. What would I do without y'all? But yeah, if you feel intimidated at any point in the elections process when you are at a polling location, like we said, notify the election judge or clerk immediately and give us a call, 713-755-6965. That way we can link up with the county attorney and make sure that all of our elections are safe and free and secure, and that nobody feels intimidated or pressured when they're at the polls. So that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for having us, Sarah.
Thank y'all for joining us. There is one more question that popped up in the comments. I don't know if y'all would like to address that.
Oh, okay. Mr. Waldy is coming in with all the questions today. Let's see. The state of Texas election laws has been placed into a current softback or downloaded manual. It costs $162 or more. Will the library be getting any copies?
And that's actually a question we should be answering. We will look into that, Charles. Thank you for asking. We'll ask our collections development department to see if that's something that we'll be able to add.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe that's something we can discuss with y'all as well.
Excellent.
Thank y'all for joining us today. And yeah, this will still be available on Facebook and YouTube as well. And yeah, we look forward to working with y'all again in the future.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having us. And thank you, Tish and Patty, for helping me through that.
Thanks,
No
guys.
problem. Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.